Okay, welcome back to Fast Ship Performance then. My name is Tim Davies, and today we are back in the attack shack, dropping truth bombs on your personal battlefields, helping you to win the wars you are fighting. And today we're looking at all the people in the British military and the significant outflow. That means the people that are leaving. It is ridiculous. You're not going to believe the figures. Honestly, let's jump straight in. So this article came out on New Year's Eve. I wanted to wait until we'd had a nice Merry Christmas before we actually talked about it, guys. It's by Sean Raymond then. So why recruits are quitting the armed forces in their droves. Defence should be the country's utmost priority, but due to cost cutting, the military is not retaining the troops we need. And this is why it is asking some of us to come back. Yeah, I'm not joking, guys. It's asked me to come back and teach people to fly airplanes. But as you can see, I'm a little bit older now, a little bit grayer. And also, the payout here is better, although I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not actually in a business as such. But also, I wonder, what am I actually going back into? What is the state of our armed forces that I would be joining today? Well, this article tells me a little bit about that. I don't think we've actually worn that uniform for about 2 decades now, to be fair. They really need to update their pictures. The first act of any government is or should be the defence of the state. Well, this is true. And if that was the case, then why are we allowing in so many illegal immigrants into the UK whose backgrounds we genuinely don't know? So they talk about having enough trained soldiers, tanks, aircraft, ships, and all the rest of it, obviously, to protect a nation. But in each one of these categories, armed forces are now lacking. And that is the truth. You're not going to believe these figures. The figures, when I joined the British military back in 1997, the British Army was 218,000 if you include the reservists. I'm going to give you a figure in a second that is going to destroy all of our fragile little minds. Very soon, the Army will get another 153 Challenger 3 tanks. We know how susceptible they are to drone warfare, don't we? Slightly more than the 134 owned by Switzerland, which is neutral. Crazy! On top of this, worrying detail is the fact that almost every single British Army infantry regiment is under strength. Well, we know that already. The Royal Navy has recently been forced to decommission 3 warships in a bid to cut costs. I've spoken about that before. It can't put both carriers to sea. We understand that as well. It has not got the manpower. The Royal Air Force recruitment numbers still suggest it is recoiling from the disclosure that it used unlawful positive discrimination practices in a bid to boost the number of non-white pilot applicants. This disgusted me at the time. If you've ever flown with anyone in any kind of aircraft at all, such as these on the back wall here, these fast jets, it doesn't matter what the gender, I'm going to say sex because I'm old school, you know me guys, or the race or ethnicity or anything like that of the person you fly with. You're going to be killed in the same way. It doesn't matter. And for the Royal Air Force then to try and get people in who were, it's actually a racist thing to do. What it's saying is it doesn't believe that these minority groups are able to do this themselves. So it has to help out the little person. It has to help out the women. And that was what was so disgusting about it. On my YouTube channel, you can see I've made many videos on this. Fast Jet Performance Diversity. You can go to, oh, by the way, that first one there with the 4 naval officers in it, those 4 women were 4 women put in place of all the training establishments across the Royal Navy that has 4 training establishments. The chance of a woman being in each one of those posts at that particular time was 0.0000, and then there was like a 1 in there somewhere. It was ridiculously small. It should never have happened. But you can see I've talked about diversity and how diversity destroys meritocracy. My whole channel covers it, probably too much to be fair, but someone has to, right? You know what I mean? And of course, as the article highlights here then, that it was a unlawful positive discrimination practices that the Royal Air Force used there in a bid to boost the number of non-white pilot applicants, a reflection of what would appear to be the armed forces' obsession with diversity. Absolutely disgraceful. And of course, this is what it resulted in, wasn't it? New RF head, sorry, had to apologize. Can you believe this? We discriminate against white men, because it absolutely did. Now, when I spoke to the Air Force and they said, Tim, would you consider joining again? I said, you do realize that I've hit you pretty hard, and the Army and the Navy, about this diversity being forced into meritocratic hierarchical institutions, as I'm sure a lot of you who follow my channel are aware. And they said to me, yes, Tim, but don't worry about it. A lot of those people have left now, and the ones that haven't left, we know where they are, and people tend to avoid them. Yeah, they said that. They actually did say that. Yeah. And the article here, of course, from last year just goes on about the fact that they had to actually apologise and actually had to then financially compensate a lot of young white men who are, of course, the military's core demographic. And if you wonder why people aren't joining the military, well, I've done things about it, haven't I? Painting zebra crossings at Briars Norton and all sorts of things. Guys like me don't want this. And when people say, well, Tim, it's not affecting recruitment, I don't want to join the military. That has rainbow flags everywhere. There's only one flag I want. And it's this one right here. It's on the other side, isn't it? And down here, it does talk about the retention now. It says why. Everyone always says, well, when we stopped having conflicts, then people tend to leave. And that is one aspect. But obviously, people want adventure, and it does cover that here. It goes into some figures now about the pay rise over the summer. And I'm going to use my chat GBT to talk to you about why I think a lot of people are leaving. And it has a lot to do with money. So if we look at military pay from 2010, I was in 2010 and I was going to leave. I got sent to Afghanistan instead. There you go. I needed a break from the squadrons. And from 2010 to 2016, we went through a 0% pay increase, so a pay freeze pretty much in the military. I've covered this before. And then from 2016 to 2018, there was a 1% pay gap. That means you all got 1%. That had a huge effect on the pay, and people didn't realize that because we still get an incremental pay increase for your rank band. However, you were not getting the pay increase. That had a problem for many, many people. And what this graph shows here from 2010 through to 2024, remember there was 6 years of a pay freeze and 2 years of a 1% pay cap. And I'm going to show you the effect that's had on a salary then. So the left-hand column here has got obviously that pay freeze, and the right-hand column has got the salary that's gone up with inflation, as if we just had the normal inflation pay rises that you would expect to have in any job. Scrolling all the way down, 50,000, 50,000 until 2016, and then you get the 2 years worth of that 1%. You can see that. So already we are about £10,000 down on what that's going to be. And then the rest of it, of course, follows in line with each other. And we end up about £10,000 worse off. So you have to realise that people in the military now are literally about £10,000 worse off if they were on that commensurate grade. Now, I think I was on that grade. Some people are on more, some people are less. I picked a figure that was in the middle. When we look at what was paid to the junior doctors, then it's quite interesting because the doctors got about 22.3% pay increase over 2 years. What the military got was about 6%. And again, so you can have this disparity in the public sector already. It says here, while both sectors received significant pay increases, junior doctors achieved a more substantial cumulative uplift over the 2 years compared with military personnel. However, the 6% increase for military staff represents a notable improvement, yada, 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 after years of minimal pay adjustments. So when the military asked me to come back, there has been some pay changes, and there are going to be some future pay changes in the military. I look at this and I realise, of course, I'm going to be worse off than I would have been if they kept up with inflation. And the last thing then really, and we'll leave it here, guys, experienced officers and senior non-commissioned officers do not like being in an organisation that is underinvested. We understand that, of course. Operating old, inappropriate equipment that's highly demotivating. We know this. It's not rocket science. Similarly, they know that the Army cannot meet its state objective of being able to field a fully rounded out and capable warfighting division. Now, I did say I was going to just tell you the figures, didn't I, of the military at the moment. So 130,000 regular troops with about 30,000 reserve. So total about 160,000. Remember I said the army was 220,000 back in 1997. So our entire military now can fit in Wembley Stadium pretty much twice over. It's about 90,000 capacity, isn't it? So I think the army's down at about 78. I think the Navy and the RAF are both knocking around about 30,000, and we're losing. Although it says about 300 people a month, that's incorrect. We're actually losing about 1,000 a month, because I know someone who works in HR for the military, and they've said, Tim, it's a lot worse than you think it is. So they're just not telling us pretty much what's going on. And that really, guys, there's some other stuff here. There's the housing we could talk about and how poor that is. There's a lot of other things that are going on, isn't there? However, really, I think we've just got this outflow. One thing I would say is the lack of characters, the lack of leadership in the military also is quite surprising at the moment. We don't see many people, do we, sitting on TV going, it's a good place to be. We see a lot of people coming out talking negatively. I don't want to talk negatively about it, and I would rejoin, of course, in an absolute second. I would have to lose about 15 pounds, because the weight on the Hawk, which is this aircraft here, there we go. I've got to get back down to like 91 point something kilograms, and I'm knocking up the late 90s, put a bit of weight on as I've left. So there's that. There's a few other things as well. I don't particularly want to live in North Wales. My family's down here in the Cheltenham area. So there's a lot going on, and it just saddens me. It really saddens me that we haven't got the throughput in flying training that we used to have when I was on the squadrons, and we just don't have the same, I think, amount of high caliber people in our military. And the other thing I would just want to leave with this, I don't want to be bitter because I don't consider myself to be a bitter guy. I would just say that when I left at 2018, it was working, and now it's not. And that pisses me off, if I'm going to be honest with you. And I don't want to swear on my channel, but people in here have broken something. Okay. And it wasn't my cohort that broke it. because we were there investing in the military. I did 20 years. It pisses me off that someone has let the team down from the senior ranks here, and it's got himself into a real bad place where it's not even able to entice the core demographic of young white men to join the military. It can't even do that anymore. That is inexcusable as far as I'm concerned. I would be dragging people in front of Parliament. Well, we should have done, of course. We did drag Mike Wigston. Of course, we said he was going to come back to Defence Select Committee under Tobias Ellwood, but he never did. He never did come back and explain the poor diversity. And I'll leave you this one thing, guys. If you think it's gone away and diversity is no more, well, it's just getting rebranded as Bridge, isn't it? Well, look at this. Of course, it's getting rebranded, and Bridge is the new thing that you're going to be hearing about soon. It's just basically another way of getting this here. Here we go. Purpose-driven community, bias to action, focus in the workplace, workforce and marketplace. The Bridge mission is to create a cultural shift in companies where DEI principles flow through all facets of an organization, from the C-suite and marketing through product development, procurement, and customer service. Literally, who cares? I'll get some more videos out for you soon, guys. I really appreciate you liking these videos, because I think the algorithm, that helps, isn't it? So I really appreciate it. Let's create a thumbnail for this, shall we, guys? Let's create a really cool thumbnail. That's really awesome, so that when you watch the video, you get this thumbnail, right? How about this one? About that one? About this one? Look, maybe I'll point to the flag. What do you reckon? I'll point to the flag? Point to the flag. Let's be next to the flag. Yeah, there we are. Big wide eyes.